Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Sunday night for our second post-game podcast edition of this postseason. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter. And Jori, the Toronto Blue Jays are up 2-0 in the ALDS with perhaps the two most dominant wins to open a playoff run that we've ever seen.
Yes, they've scored. I'm going to do the math here in my head, so you'll have to forgive me, but they scored 10 in the first. They scored, was it 13 today?
Yeah.
23 runs, most by any team through the first two games.
Through two games in general in the postseason.
Just remarkable stuff. Offensively, incredible. The Vlad performances have been off the charts, but burying the lead here, history by Trey Yesavage. What an unbelievable, unfathomable. The words, they're not going to come to me because there are none. This kid just dicing up the best offense in baseball and making history in the process.
Yeah, Trey Yesavage sets the Blue Jays single-game postseason strikeout record, working 5 1/3 no-hit innings, obviously scoreless to go along with that. 11 punchies, 18 whiffs, had the Yankees looking foolish all game long. And I mean, we've talked a lot about Trey Yesavage on this podcast this year, but I think even in the most optimistic of projections or the most optimistic views of what the Trey Yesavage season would look like, none of them ended up at this spot at all. And for him to do what he did today, to have the emotional moment after the game too, kind of with his family, they did a great job on the broadcast of handling that, like just stuff straight out of a storybook. Like it was an incredible night for Trey Yesavage, and obviously things kind of unfold behind him in an undesirable way for the Blue Jays bullpen, coughing up 7 runs. But I mean, when you get 11 punchies and 5 1/3 scoreless from your rookie right-hander and your offense is clicking the way that it was, I think you're okay to give up a couple runs and walk away feeling good about the win.
And, as soon as I see the lineup, because, I tuned into the game before, I was coming from a little brunch beforehand, big brunch guy. And
Who's not?
who's not? And so I flip on the game and I see the Yankees lineup and I see they've gone to all of these lefties. And immediately, and remember we were going back and forth about this, it was like, oh, this might actually work out extremely well for the Blue Jays. And then, of course, the first inning rolls around and he dices everybody up except for Aaron Judge, which, of course, you're going to pitch around Aaron Judge. He's Aaron Judge. And, by the end of the first inning, almost immediately, you're like, okay, this is going to be that kind of game for Trey Yesavage. It clicked like that. The confidence he was showing, and he said it after the game, and the way he had the Yankees eating out of his palm the whole game. Ben Rice was in hell. Trent Grisham was in hell. The whole top of the Yankees lineup, the whole Yankees lineup, just in general, nobody could touch him, and it's like befuddling that there's no words to even describe what we witnessed on Sunday afternoon. It was just incredible and indescribably amazing.
Yeah, some of the specifics: 78 pitches, 35 fastballs, 29 splitters, 14 sliders. I mean, obviously, from Trey Yesavage's like time in pro ball, like the splitter has been the selling point. The splitter has been kind of the number one thing that you watch, and for it to come into this game, return a 69% whiff rate, the slider as well. It was an 83% whiff rate. I think is probably the Yankees trying to decipher, the between the fastball and the splitter, and just maybe not even worrying about the slider really for that one, but just incredible stuff. I think it was the poise and the confidence and the maturity is something that has like really kind of shown through with Trey Yesavage at each level this year. But for him to do that against such a veteran lineup, right? I think that was kind of the big question. We knew that this is a quality pitcher, right? We've seen that already. We've seen that across multiple levels. We've seen that across a ton of starts this year that this is going to be a dude. But for him to, step into the biggest start of his career against the best offense in baseball and deliver that type of outing where it seems like every single thing he threw was getting past these Yankees hitters, keeping them fooled, obviously no hits on the game. And, I think even after too, you kind of see the reaction. Like this dude was was coronated by the baseball world for what he did tonight. You know, Derek Jeter on the Fox broadcast being like, "Man, I'm glad I don't play anymore to face that." David Ortiz being like, "Yeah, that guy just murders lefties." And you know, even A-Rod kind of getting it. I think that Fox panel, like having three Hall of Fame caliber players saying that about your 22-year-old rookie after he decimated the New York Yankees in the ALDS. I mean, tough to top that.
I like that word, coronation. This did feel like a coronation. There was also a very funny quote afterwards where he kind of went, I said I'm built for this. I better make sure I back that up.
Yeah.
That was just this kid. It feels like you're watching a flower bloom in real time. It's so unlike the Blue Jays to have this kind of prospect pedigree come out and shove like this. Again, the Jays have maybe never had a pitching prospect come out like this. Vladdy obviously was the number one prospect in baseball. He took a long time to get going. Bo was a top prospect. He came out of the gates really hot. I don't know if he came out of the gates this hot. Um, this is just incredible stuff from Yesavage today, and obviously over the past several starts. But this is his fourth big league start. That's worth acknowledging too. It's just, again, you're gonna see me say it over and over and over again over the next half hour or however long we ultimately go here. You can see I'm literally struggling to come up with the words to properly emphasize the magnitude of what Trey Yesavage did today because it's a history books level performance.
How about the cojones on him? First batter of the game, gets Trent Grisham 1-2, comes into his windup, glove in the face. Grisham calls timeout. Dude is stonewalling him. He's staring back. He is frozen, not moving. Grisham gets in the box, looks up, pitch clock hits eight. Boom, splitter down, strike three. See you later. Let's set the tone and let's roll. Like,
And he
man,
did that a couple times.
yeah.
That's right out of the Max Scherzer playbook.
Yeah. I just like, I mean, it's so funny. Like, I think like I said, we've talked a lot about Savage this year. And I think even down the stretch where we were kind of doing weekly check-ins being like, what's the percentage he's going to pitch for the Blue Jays? And now it's like, hey, this is your number two, maybe number three. We'll see. We'll see how things turn out for Shane Bieber on Tuesday. This is, one of your best three pitchers, and he's going to, throw out any innings limit you had, any worry that you had about him out the window, and he is going to be one of your most significant postseason contributors.
Yeah, and if he's going to continue to pitch like this, there's no telling how deep this Blue Jays team can go because, you had this confidence coming into the series about Gosman, and you had this confidence going in about Shane Bieber. Then, the theory was, you were going to go. I mean, this is going back a couple weeks, but it was Bieber one, Gosman two, and they shuffled it around a little bit. They ultimately decide, we want to go Gosman one because of how he ended the season, and then you're like, okay, well, is Savage going to start this game? The Jays wouldn't even commit to him starting a couple days ago. Ross Atkins said he'll be involved in the run prevention game. We were saying he might play
At,
shortstop.
at this point, I think we can acknowledge that was him playing games a little, yeah?
I think that's about as fair an assessment as you're going to get. You know, Savage, it seemed like maybe he would go game three, but then there was, will he be able to pitch on the road here? And then it was kind of like, well, what's the plan here for game four? And what if Savage's start goes off the rails and suddenly you're kind of in a pickle here that you can't even really use him? And what if but like there were all of these scenarios where things could have gone off the rails. And almost immediately, he completely vanishes, washes away anything resembling a concern anybody could have reasonably had, and goes and does that over 5+ innings, right? It was just, I think he struck out six straight at one point. It was like every time, the Yankees sent the guy up and Savage was hammering the fastball and the splitter, and they just could not pick up his splitter if they had a pitch com hacking device, like it was. I'm finishing every sentence like this because it's true. How do you contextualize that start? How do you properly articulate how amazing that start was? I don't think I have that vernacular to do so and do so with justice.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you just scroll through the Sportsnet stats feed on Twitter, and it's, most strikeouts through the first 5 innings of a postseason game. Trey Yesavage tied for second, stepping into a list with Clayton Kershaw, Mike Messina, Sandy Koufax, only trailing Patrick Corbin. Obviously we already said the most strikeouts in a Blue Jays playoff game ever, and he did that in like 4 innings, right? Like he got to 10 so quick, or he got to 9. The record was 8 by, a handful of guys, David Price, Juan Guzman, Dave Stieb. And, even further than that,
And,
I think he's
and, and
he's the
let's
youngest
also
pitcher
let's
to ever not give up 0 hits in a playoff start. First pitcher to get 11 strikeouts while allowing no hits in 5 innings. Like it was just incredible what he did
the
tonight.
other pitchers on that list, by the way, like you mentioned them, those are some aces.
Yeah.
Juan Guzman at the time was, I mean, certainly evolved into an ace for the Blue Jays. Dave Stieb was obviously an ace for those Blue Jays teams. David Price was David Price, and to add Trey Savage's name to that list tells you the company that he's keeping here.
How about the post-game interview? I think very cool moment for him. I
I
think
I literally called my girlfriend back into the room to
yeah.
go, "Hey, you need to watch this," because it was like goosebumps, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome for him to, obviously he's obviously like the way that they did the camera was really good, where you're kind of like looking at him and his family, although, for him it's just like this huge crowd of 40,000 people in front of him, and for him to, kind of be vulnerable in that moment, and then, being saying how much he loves his family, how important they are, everything like that, like how awesome of a moment for him individually. And the curtain call was really cool. And this is what October baseball is about, and what makes it just so, so, so special.
Like that's the kind of stuff that's gonna live in Blue Jays lore
Yeah.
forever and ever.
And
It's gonna, if if they make a DVD of this season, there's gonna be a nice long chunk dedicated to this Trey Savage start.
it's amazing too, because they obviously this Trey Savage start happens, and there's like 1,000 storylines in this game to follow. The Blue Jays offense explodes. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a moment once again in the second straight game, hits the first grand slam in Blue Jays playoff history. And, obviously for Savage to kind of overshadow all of that just shows how special his start was. But certainly more for us to get to here. And I think we can start with Vladdy. Another 3 hits tonight, obviously 4 RBIs on the grand slam. I mean, I think the John Boy clip was pretty funny, where John Boy's like most obvious grand slam of all time, and then whack, there it goes. But I think, that at bat where Vladdy like steps out on the first pitch as it's coming, and then he just gets a fastball inside from Will Warren and goes second deck with it. And I think, if you're looking, the bat flip pick was pretty sweet. The crowd was insane. Like just that hour of like while Trey Savage was pitching and the offense was putting up like 12 runs, just incredible.
I mean, I don't think I felt like that since the seventh inning of 2015. That grand slam, uh, immediately, and obviously, it's gonna be a couple pegs down just by the nature of where it is in the series, but it's in the same category as, Alomar in 89, and Carter's obviously home run is well above it, but it's in that same group
Maybe
of
just a
lore. And,
little.
and then the Donaldson bat, or excuse me, the Joey bat flip, and the Edwin walk off, and the Donaldson dash. That home run to me is a defining moment of this era, of this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. era of baseball. I also want to point this out. They said this on Blair and Barker, where after game one, they kind of said that Vladdy's new contract kind of starts, now. It starts in theory, you know, the this is playoff Vladdy, like the season's done. This is what we paid you for. Let's see what you got. And he is passed with flying colors and then some. He's completely shed any semblance of any demons from past playoff failures. He's turned into an early an early MVP candidate if you want to really go that far. He's done everything right in terms of he's taking the ball the other way and he's turning on balls and he's waiting for his pitch. He's spitting on everything. They've said this repeatedly now. He's chased two pitches and both of them went for singles. I think he's seen almost 40 total. He's so locked in, like I don't think we've seen him since probably the 21 season, and I don't even know if there was a stretch. Certainly, I don't remember a stretch where he was this piping hot, given the context, the leverage, and the opponent.
Yeah, it's just a different beast when he's kind of swinging the way that he is, and kind of when he's got like a little bit of that swagger at the plate too. I think he's just in such a good spot, and we talked about it last night. But I mean, how important is that buy, right? Those 5 days off for him to kind of get right and take care of his body and everything like that, like just kind of massive. And obviously, they're bearing the fruits of that right now with him going off like this. I kind of coming into this game, we said probably most important game of the series, and that's until you get to a game five, basically, I would say. And for them to come out against Max Fried and do this to him, who, is not the deepest of postseason track records, but you know what? I think Max Fried is a really, really good pitcher, and they just were all over him today. 8 hits, 7 runs, only 1K. Like I think in these two games, they have more home runs than they do strikeouts. And if that is not, well, it's maybe not like the 2025 Blue Jays in a stat, but the strikeouts, the way that they've put the ball in play with these through these two games has been incredible. And I mean for them to get to Fried and get Warren in there, and then it was kind of just a little bit of batting practice with Will Warren. I know he kind of settled down at the end, but they just kind of teed off, and Dalton Varsho right in the middle of it all. I think if Yesavage and Vladdy aren't kind of the headliners, we said like a 3 stars last night. Um, the 3 stars of this one are definitely Trey, Vlad, and Dalton Varsho, because Varsho goes 4 for 5, 2 doubles, 2 homers, kind of sets the stage early with that ball down the line that could have been scored a triple. The judge kind of bobbled it in the corner, crashing the wall, all of that. But I mean, we talked about Varsho potentially being like a major difference maker in the series, and he kind of steps up. And I think Max Fried, we talked about, he's one of those guys that was kind of pitching into Varsho's hot zone, and he really did step up.
I think that the Varsho stuff, I mean, it's crazy. This guy almost hits for the cycle and it kind of gets swept under the rug because of the two other incredible moments from this
Yeah.
game. I think for Varsho, for me, it's always been about the glove and anything with the stick in a lot of respects when he's doing this kind of stuff is like gravy. Um, but this goes even beyond that now. He had a big first game as well, made a big catch, a couple big knocks, and then today, the two homers. I mean, just it's so incredible how not only have the stars shined, not only have you gotten these unsung contributions, but it's literally everybody is chipping in. Dalton Varsho had to step up to an extent because of Bo's absence, but this one was really gonna, you know, live and die in a lot of respects with Vlad and Springer and Kirk. And then Varsho was probably in maybe a tier below that. But he's been incredible this series. And I just mentioned him. Kirk had a big game today again. And Springer homers today.
Well, five
And
five homers is the franchise record for homers in a postseason game, and you get Ernie, Springer, Vlad, and Varsho times two to kind of get there. And I mean, that's a guy at the top of the order, that's a guy in the middle of the order, and that's some guys kind of in the middle to the bottom of the order. So I mean, like just to your point, like incredible the depth that they're getting.
should we kind of, because obviously you just brought him up. We've got Varsho and we've got Clement kind of in the discussion here. I think those two, obviously they're different in the way they were ultimately able to contribute. But there's some cohesiveness here to the story of Varsho and the story of Clement, just in terms of that secondary offense and getting contributions from guys that you're not necessarily betting on being heartbeat guys for this series against the Yankees. Ernie Clement is not supposed to be the guy giving you a 2-0 lead off of a homer in the second inning.
off
But
of
lo and
Max Fried.
behold, against Max Fried. Like, that's just who the Blue Jays are. This guy kills lefties as an OPS over 900 against lefties on the season. For extended periods, it was over 1,000 against lefties. There was a period this guy was the best lefty killer in baseball. And oh, by the way, he's a Gold Glove level defender out there too.
Yeah, and really nice game for him too. I mean, obviously 3 for 4 with the big homer. Gets a couple more hits. Like this is a guy who I think if you were to kind of take the Blue Jays and like try and put them or like find one player that embodies this team, I feel like Ernie Clement is probably kind of that guy. I think, there's certainly some more pedigree on this team than a guy like Ernie Clement has, but like just kind of the spirit that he plays with, like there's no question that this is a fan favorite, and for him to have a big playoff moment is really huge. And I think, just for their their 5-6 guys to combine for 7 hits and 7 RBIs and 5 runs, like just incredible stuff for them. And it's kind of like why you score 13 runs, right? Like Vlad obviously can hit the grand slam, but you're not putting up 13 runs without contributions from up and down the lineup.
By the way, the shrug, the Ernie Clement show, my bad, I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
That was some dirty stuff, some nasty stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately for him, he is the yesterday was it Nathan Lucas was our honorable mention of the game for the 3 stars, and now it's got to be Ernie Clement because there's just so many guys
It's
having moments.
everyone is really chipping in
Yeah.
like this, and they're doing this without Bo Bichette. That is the thing that you start to salivate a little bit, you
I
know.
mean, you sure you don't want to take somebody out of there? You ruin the chemistry.
I don't know, man. I mean, listen, all I'm saying is, if Bo Bichette's willing to move off shortstop, suddenly, the rich could get a lot richer in a potential ALCS if you want to start doing a little bit of penciling in and so forth.
What did you make of the lineup? Obviously, we kind of talked about it yesterday. We're like, well, would you go IKF for Barger? Would you kind of keep Santander in there? Like, what would kind of be the thing? And obviously, they kind of pull back almost every single lefty, and it's IKF in there for Barger, Straw in for Santander, and Davis Schneider in for Nathan Lucas. What did you kind of make of them going that way?
I mean, Schneider, I thought had a productive game. Obviously, had the strike with the bases loaded before Vladdy, but
He just
on the
good
whole,
teammate stuff. He knows that Vladdy wanted that.
exactly, he needs his moment. He knows his role. I thought Schneider had a strong game. Um, IKF, I don't know if he made any great defensive plays. He wasn't really doing anything with the stick. Would you maybe have wanted Barger in there? It's possible, but at the end of the day, I think that that really wasn't the story of the game. And then you're going Straw for Santander, and Straw contributed as well, right? So again, it just it feels like, save for maybe one or two decisions today, all the right levers being pulled by John Schneider, which I think maybe
Let's
brings
get into
us
it.
to the bullpen.
So obviously, everything kind of going right for the Blue Jays in this game. They get up, and I believe it's 12-0, and then that was Savage comes out in the 6th inning, and they turn to Justin Brule, who is basically on this roster as the 26th man. I would say is kind of, well, maybe not proving true given Yariel Rodriguez is the only one who hasn't pitched yet, but Justin Brule, the last lefty for sure, he comes in, isn't able to escape the 6th inning, gives up 3 hits, gives up the homer, the 2-run homer to Cody Bellinger. Braden Fisher comes in, gets him out of that inning, and then Eric Lauer comes out in the 7th, where the Yankees eventually put up 5 runs, forcing the Blue Jays to make 2 pitching changes in that inning, where Eric Lauer gives up or sorry, gives up 3 runs and 3 hits, gets 1 out. They turn to Tommy Nance, who gives up 2 runs and 3 hits, and then they bring in Mason Fluharty, who kind of calms things down and gets out of there. And then Louis Varland and Anthony Dominguez pitch the eighth and the ninth, kind of, you know, bringing things back
Bringing
to
the temperature down.
exactly. And so, I mean, in an ideal world, you don't want to have to go to Varland and Dominguez probably in this situation. And I
I
know
don't even think they needed to.
you
I'll be
you
honest. I don't know
tweeted
if they
out
needed to.
you tweeted it out that you were like not concerned about it at all. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, like it is, it is important that the Yankees got some good feeling in their bats going forward, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, like that could completely be snuffed out by Shane Bieber on Tuesday, a couple days from now in Game 3. But I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's probably like a 5.5 concern level.
Here's how I would counter that for you. Do you see a universe that the Yankees see either Justin Brule or Tommy Nance? We'll
I'm not
discount Eric
even
Lauer because of obviously Eric Lauer. Do you see a universe that the Yankees see Justin Brule and Tommy Nance
that's
again
not
if the
that's not the
game
that's not the
I know that
concern
I
though.
well no, but hold on. Just stick with me here because I know the concern is that it's the familiarity factor. It's the fact that they were able to get some runs on some guys and then they got to the back part of the bullpen. Back part of the bullpen was easy breezy. 1-2-3, 1-2-3. The Sir Anthony Dominguez, had a minor blip and then proceeded to answer back by making Giancarlo Stanton look like a a fool. Um, Is there a universe you think that the Yankees see Tommy Nance or Justin Brule in a game that is closer than 4 runs apart between games 3 and games 5? Because I don't.
No.
And they racked up the runs against, up against Tommy Nance, who I don't think, I mean, listen, he had a really good year. You kind of trust him in some leveragey spots. He maybe gets knocked down a peg in the order today. It is what it is. I don't think he even really got drilled that much. He gave up some knocks, but it didn't feel like he necessarily got hit around really hard. Justin Brule is, like you said, the 26th man and is likely only coming into games if they've already spent, Little and Flew and Lauer. So that's 2 guys that they got to. The Lauer stuff concerns me a little bit. I think to me, there's going to be some interesting stuff that happens if they go to a game 4. Maybe you're in a situation where, right now it seems like they're probably going to have to go with this bullpen game. I don't know if they would have to turn to Gosman on short rest. Like that seems a little bit sketchy. But at the end of the day, I think that it was the 7 runs to me is misleading. A lot of that, I mean, all of that is it's whatever the equivalent you want to call it of garbage time scoring and against literally the lowest leverage guys in the bullpen, save for maybe you believe in Tommy Nance, but he still isn't one of your kind of core 4, core 5 guys. And Eric Lauer, who also I don't think is one of your core 4, core 5 guys. I know that, we were kind of arguing before we hit the record button whether it's Flew, Little, Lauer, or if it's Little, Lauer, Flew, or exactly what the order is. Um, Based on how the season ended, I think that Fluharty, and based on I think the deployment, I think that Fluharty is their number one lefty as we speak, and that Little's number 2 and Lauer's number 3. But I know you disagree on that point. At the end of the day, there's 100% there's a gap between, there's a gap I think between who's at the top of that list. Like those 3 guys to me are not in the same tier of lefty and not going to be receiving the same leverage situation as lefties. And I think that just given all of those caveats, you you can't make me give a crap about ultimately the Yankees run scoring at the end of the game. I just don't. It just does not move me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's the run scoring that really matters. It's the extra look at at Varland and Dominguez that you probably would have liked to avoid. But at the end of the day, you're you're up 2-0 in the ALDS, and you just need to win one more game to move on.
Well,
So
that's the other thing. Is that like, there's a non-zero chance Shane Bieber goes 6 innings. You
yeah,
go, I don't know. You don't love the idea of having to go back to Varland or Seranthony Dominguez, but they didn't see Hoffman a second time. They
yeah,
still haven't seen Yariel. It seems like Yariel is kind of down in the pecking order, but who
he's in the
knows? Maybe
doghouse.
he is in the doghouse, but who knows? Maybe he's a guy that you go to bridge that gap between those setup guys and Hoffman. If the Jays are up by 3 or 4 runs, in a sixth or seventh inning spot, and all of a sudden you're laughing your way to the bank because the Yankees maybe got an extra look at these two guys, but they still have yet to see Ariel Rodriguez. Like they've stretched their pitching staff out for this exact reason. They have enough guys that you don't have to necessarily worry as much about hiding guys. And at that, your best guys, you want to use your best guys because you want to use your best guys. You want them to be in the games to shut guys down, to shut down rallies, to shut down important moments. We'll see exactly what happens with Bieber because I think that's going to be super fascinating just in terms of exactly how he ultimately executes. If this is a more of a Marlin start, then sayonara, see you later. If this is more of a red start, it becomes a bit more of a question of okay, are we in kind of a bit of a sticky situation here? But again, I don't see I don't see it as a huge issue that they did get to see, you know, Varland and Sir Anthony Dominguez because they didn't really do much against either of them, particularly Varland.
Yeah, I think game four kind of looms large in the conversation on the outside of where it is going to be a bullpen game. So, you know, does Varland start that game? Like, how does that kind of all play out? I'm sure it'll kind of be dependent on what happens in game three, obviously. I think we can kind of look forward to that one a little bit. Obviously, Bieber against Carlos Rodon back at Yankee Stadium. The nervous energy there is going to be crazy because,
Like a
there's been,
knife. Cut it like a
there's
knife.
there's been the narrative out there that this is like the most complete Yankees team, and they come off that big wild card comeback against the Red Sox where Schlittler kind of has the big thing. And I think kind of when you look at these two games, like if you're the Blue Jays, you really want to take care of business in game three. And even George Springer after the game, he's saying, we're going there and it's 0-0 because that's a good team over there. And again, like they didn't necessarily play all that well today, but again, I think the Blue Jays took it to them, and that was we haven't quite seen the Yankees response yet. And even Rodon's quotes today I thought were kind of funny about the Jays. Did you hear these where he's like,
I didn't catch these.
no, so they were asking him about the Blue Jays lineup today, and he's like, yeah, it's a tough lineup. Like they've got some slug. They don't strike out. Sometimes you need the strikeout, and it's just not there against them. And I'm like, well, I mean, it kind of sounds like they're in your dome there, man. So I mean, the psychological advantage of not striking out is already there against this team, and I just think that obviously the Blue Jays have played so well against the Yankees at home this year. And they lost their two series on the road at Yankee Stadium. But if they can kind of come out and deliver the first punch in game three, it wouldn't surprise me a ton to kind of see this Yankee group fold.
I think you've pretty well articulated it. It's going to be a bit of a, first to two, first to three. And if the Jays can jump out ahead, I mean, would it really shock you to see the Yankees just start really pressing and things just completely deflate over there? I know it's early to say this, but this Yankees group to me doesn't seem, dare I say, you look at Judge and his, 700 postseason OPS. I'm going to use the M word, the mental fortitude of that team. We'll see.
Um, I don't, yeah, we can kind of get into it after the series. I was gonna bring up maybe some more post-series topics, but Blue Jays one win away from the ALCS. Joe, you got anything else on game two and the 13-7 win for the Blue Jays? I think we kind of hit on everybody. Big moments, obviously Trey Savage, record-setting, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., huge grand slam, Dalton Varsho, Ernie Clement racking up the hits. Anybody else that you kind of that stood out to you?
You've really highlighted it, and I just want to reiterate the incredible start by Trey Yesavage. This will make a very nice opening line to his Hall of Fame speech, I'm sure.
Yeah, that'll be in 10 years, 20 years or so. We'll see.
Yeah, 20 years after he, obviously, of course, after he sets the wins record for Major League Baseball, right?
Wins record. Wow,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
that's
We're bringing back the pitcher win stat.
pitcher
We're
wins. Are they
that's what Trey Savage is gonna do.
okay? We're not going to get into pitcher wins today, but yeah, we will be back after game 3 on Tuesday night. Obviously, like we said, Bieber against Rodon, really exciting time for the Blue Jays to, hopefully punch their ticket through or put together another good performance. The Tigers and Mariners kind of seem to be going at each other. It's 1-1 after the Mariners evened it tonight, winning the Scooble start. So exciting week of baseball to head, or a week ahead. That is going to do it for us, though. We are going to run. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View Podcast. If you're listening along on the audio provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach. Jori is at Jori Negin-Shecter. And the pod is at BEV_pod. Thanks so much for listening.